Wanted influencers to promote your product. Say you're swiping or you're going along Instagram and you see them talking about different products and you're like, man, I wish they would talk about mine. Maybe you've tried to reach out to influencers and they're not getting back to you. Maybe you're feeling a little frustrated. We're going to talk about how to work with influencers and get their attention so you can build long-lasting business relationships with them. All right, let's get started. Hi, friend. Welcome to the Because I Can Life podcast. I'm Alison Prince, and I'm so glad you're here. And just a little heads up, I'm stocked on milk duds. I appreciate you so much for sending milk duds to me. If you don't know the story, there was a milk dud shortage here in Puerto Rico, and I was going a little bit crazy. I couldn't find them anywhere. I mentioned it on social media a few times, and milk duds started showing up at my door in caseloads. I'm not kidding. We've had so many milk duds shipped to us, and I could just reach through this podcast and just kiss you on the forehead. If you're one of the blessed angels that sent me milk duds. Okay. I don't normally like milk duds, and I didn't really like them at all before this summer, but my dentist told me not to eat milk duds. And then that's all I wanted was milk duds. So maybe you know the feeling. I'm sure we could tie this into some business life analogy that when someone tells you not to have something, like that's the only thing you want. Yeah, that was me. So thank you. I'm very, very stocked up on milk duds now and do appreciate it very, very much. All right, let's dig into today's topic with Jake Kelfer. There's a specific reason why I wanted to bring him on today is to show you how he is able to get into influencers' doors and start working business partnerships with them. Over the last 6 to 9 months, I've watched Jake get some of the top influencers out there in the business world that are very, very hard to get a hold of and bring them together collectively and write a book. And as he's doing this, I'm watching him and I'm like, oh, that is so brilliant how he's doing this and reaching out to these influencers and getting in their DMs and getting their attention. And so I want you to listen today and take notes. If you are trying to reach out to an influencer and maybe they're not getting back with you, or you're thinking of, oh my gosh, it'd be cool to work with this person, and this person, how do you do it? Jake's got the answers, because I've found in all of my e-commerce businesses, and how does she, the collaboration effort is so incredibly strong to grow your business, to be able to get more case studies, to be able to get more to a warmer audience. And you can skip all the people that are a little bit leery and get right to a warm audience to be able to sell your product. So listen in, take notes on how Jake is explaining to break those boundaries for you to be able to start working with influencers. Are you ready? On your mark, get set, let's go. Jake Kelfer. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? This is going to be so fun.
I think that was my first real announcement voice that I've ever used introducing a guest. So that just means I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah, and I'm excited here too.
2 minutes before we started this, I'm like, hey, Jake, I've been watching you, but I don't even know your backstory. And then you said, do you want me to tell you? I'm like, wait, we got to record this. So let's just start. Dig in. Tell me your backstory.
Okay, cool. I'll give you the super short but super exciting version. For me, growing up, I wanted to be an NBA player. Okay. But as a 5'8" Jewish kid from the suburbs, the dreams of playing for the Lakers they weren't in the cards for me. But I was very fortunate to have parents who I think knew this, and they really wanted me to focus on academics. So I decided if I can't be an NBA player, I'm going to represent the best in the world. I'll be a sports agent. Well, as life would have it, you start experiencing life. I go to college. I plan to work for an agency. And right before I get ready to graduate, I'm graduating from the University of Southern California, thousands of dollars in student loan debt. And the agency I'm going to work for goes on a hiring freeze. And that was the first time where I realized that the plan we have isn't always the plan that's meant to be. And so I kind of scrambled. I put everything together. And as the world would have it, because when you take action, you do these things, and we'll talk a lot about this today. Well, what happened was I actually started my career not playing for the Lakers, but working for the Los Angeles Lakers in the corporate partnerships division. And so I got to be on the court with all the contestants. I got to be doing the meet and greets. And it was like, in a way, a full circle moment, right? So I started thinking, oh my gosh, there's more to this game than go to college, get a job, make money, achieve whatever you define success as, and then you can give back. And I was like, wait a second, I have it all backwards. So when I was 22 years old, I wrote my first book on how to stand out in the job market, discover your passion. And that became a best-selling book at 23 years old. That book then put me, put me on the trajectory to keep writing. So now, as of recently, I just released my third book, The Elevated Entrepreneur. And along this journey, I went from working with the Lakers to writing my first book, to traveling the world as a motivational speaker, to building a major event to help more NBA draft picks sign their first contract. So we've helped over 70 guys sign their first contract in 30 plus countries around the world, written a couple books. And now my main focus is on sharing all these lessons that I've learned on the entrepreneurial journey and the life journey with amazing people so that they could achieve success, however they define it. And I do that through business coaching, and I do that through helping people write their first books.
Okay, so that's impressive.
Thank you.
Mic drop right there. Okay, so you've got the 3 books. What was the first one?
So the first book is called Elevate Beyond. The second book is called Elevate Your Network.
Right here.
That you're holding up. And the third book is called The Elevated Entrepreneur, which I'm holding up.
And I am chomping at the bit to get that. Okay, so talk about the first, the second, and the third, and why they're all so different and why we should care. I know why I care, but tell our audience why we should care about these books so much.
So the first book was my entryway into doing something that people said I couldn't do. Okay. I think that in life, like some of the greatest experiences are when people tell you you can't, or when you think, why should I? Why me? Right. But in the negative way. And I said, why not me in the positive way? And so my first book, I decided to write it because I knew I had a message to help people. I knew that I could share the knowledge that I had gained during college and in the interview process that would help my younger brother who was in college at the time. I was like, I'm going to write this book for him and all these other college students who are struggling to get internships, struggling to get jobs, who maybe then could read this book, get better grades, get better internships, and have more time to enjoy themselves. So that was the first book. The second book came because after I built this basketball event, I'd been speaking everywhere. I was like, wait a second, why am I here? Like, why did I get to this point of my life at such a young age? And the answer was my network. The answer was the relationships I've built, the people that have lifted me up, because everybody on our journey, no matter who you are, no matter what you're trying to achieve, somebody's been where you've been. Somebody can help you. Someone's going to give back to you. And when we realize that we're in the business of people, that's when you can really start to win the game. You know, and in my third book, which you talk about in our interview together, because you're featured in this bad boy,
woohoo,
is you talk about relationships are everything. You talk about humans first, sales second. You know, and I think that's such a powerful thing. And so that was the second book. Now, this third book is a culmination of everything up to this point. So it's an interview-based book focusing on highlighting the world's best coaches, performers, and entrepreneurs with the intention to show people, what do people that are successful do differently? How can you actually achieve your definition of success while still enjoy the journey? How can you better yourself every single day and not worry about, am I there yet? But rather enjoy the I'm getting better every day process. How do you build the right relationships that can change your life and your business overnight? And so all of those books have led us to today, which is just such a blessing. And it's so amazing to be able to share these books with everybody.
So good. So good. And you actually really, you do what you teach. You are talking about network and how people come first. Like you reached out to me the very first time. And it was all out of service. Allison, how can I help you? Allison, let's do that. Like you just came in full 100%. How can I serve you? And I just thought that was so cool. So your approach to it was so impactful. And now you've got a whole book of massive players who are standing up and saying, Jake, yes, we will give you all of our information that we have and let us help you promote the book. Like the way you do it and the way you teach is the exact same thing. Like, it's just so fun to see that. Okay. So who are some of the people that you interviewed in this book? And then the second question is, what are some similarities that these people have?
Okay. This is an amazing question. I love this. So some of the people that are featured in the book are you. Highlighted number one is you. We have Dr. Nicole Pera, aka the holistic psychologist. We have Jill Stanton, we have John Lee Dumas, we have Pat Flynn, we have Lori Harder, we have Ali Kasaza, we have so many amazing, amazing entrepreneurs and people in this book. And they're amazing. Like all these stories just blow my mind. Alison Bird, Rachel Bell. I mean, we have so many people that are within all these communities. Steve J. Larson, Marley Jackson, so many people that are in our communities that people look up to from around the world, which is really cool to be able to host them in one book. In terms of some of the similarities, I think that one of the biggest similarities that I found through and through was I ask a question in the book. And like I mentioned, it's an interview book. So I ask everyone a similar set of questions. And one of my favorite questions to ask is, how have relationships, both personally and professionally, contributed to your success and happiness? And you're an example of this, of what happened here. Is almost an overwhelming majority of people said within the first sentence, they are everything.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is, we've talked a little bit about this relationship component in service, but what's amazing is everybody knows relationship building is critical. Everybody knows that the best relationships are the ones that bring you the most joy and happiness. Yet when it comes to building a business, especially an online business, the real human connection is the first thing we put on the backside of our priority list. Yeah. We say, oh, I need to get this website done, this social post out, this funnel designed, this link ready. When in reality, you need to get this person's information, this person's desires, this person's challenges, this person's a person. Mm-hmm. We forget that when we go through business, that it's not just a customer, an account, or a dollar sign, it's a human being. And what's so amazing in this book was that everyone talked about this amazingness and amazing love for people. And I really want to highlight that it's not just about the fact that we know this, it's about the fact that we implement this, which leads me to my second similarity about every one of the guests, which is I ask a question about what is one action you could do to better yourself and to become the best version of yourself? And an overwhelming majority of everyone also with this answer gave something related to filling up your own cup. Again, within business, within life, we're so focused on sometimes serving others that we give everything to everyone else. We have nothing left for ourselves. And that's when we start to struggle in our home life, on our relationships life, and things outside of our career and our finances. Or on the flip side, sometimes we're just always just doing a bunch of different things and we never take a second to actually think, what am I actually doing? And then you're running in the wrong direction rather than having freedom in the right direction, right? We can get so caught up in busy, busy, busy. Let me look all cool and get my schedule filled out. But meanwhile, it's not actually doing anything for your life or for your business. I'd rather have less things on the calendar, but be more intentional and be productive so that then I can have the freedom to enjoy. And you mentioned this in the book. One of the things you say was that you talk about, if you want freedom, you have to make decisions based on, is that going to bring me freedom? Mm-hmm. You don't make decisions because you think it's what you're supposed to do. If you don't want to do the fulfillment, then hire a fulfillment center. It's your choice. And that's what freedom really is. So I think that those are some of the biggest similarities, the relationships, and then making sure you fill up your own cup and being aware of this from the get-go.
Yeah, I didn't know this when I first got started. I thought I had to do it all. I thought I had to be busy, busy, busy. It was hard for me to delegate. And then on the second part, I was at a Brendan Burchard event a little bit ago. And one thing that he said that was so impactful is he said, if it's lonely at the top, it means you're doing it wrong. And I was like, whoa, that is so impactful. Like, how many times as entrepreneurs have we started something and we get going and then we feel isolated and we feel alone? If that's how we feel, we're doing it wrong. We're supposed to put people first in everything. And so that struck me so hard. So I'm so excited to talk to you today about this topic, because I think a lot of times it gets skipped. And you're right. People go straight to, oh, my logo and sales, and they just skip what business is truly about. And it's about helping people and about relationships.
Yeah, because look, if we think about it this way, right? If we think about it, you can't have a relationship in your life without another person, right? You can't get married without another person. You can't build a business if you don't have customers. Yeah. Why is our focus not on the people? And we know this, but the biggest thing that we need to change our mindset from is what I call, and similar to what Brendan just said, is like, you need to have a we mentality, not a me mentality. And here's what the difference is. Most people build their business with a me mentality because innately as human beings, we are self-centered. It's not that we try to be, it's just naturally we take care of ourselves first. So if that's the case, a me mentality person says, what can you do for me? How can I use you or your name or your brand or your business or your reputation to get to where I want to go? It's the mentality that really almost is like, I'm a little jealous that you're having success and I'm not, even though I say I want you to win, right? It's that extra like me first, you second, me first, people second. But the we mentality is the people that say, what can we do for each other? How can I help you get to where you want to go first? And then if there's opportunity based on the relationship, then what can we do together, right? Mm-hmm. When you're climbing the mountain, this is what Brendan said. It's much better to climb the mountain with somebody else than to step on somebody along the way. Because our greatest indicator to long-term happiness that the studies will show is your ability to build the relationships. So why is that not our focus? Why do we not have that in our calendar every day, but yet we'll create email campaigns? Why do we not have connect with 5 people? Why is that not an automatic in on our calendar when it comes to necessary tasks? That's what I want to change. That's what I want people to start seeing. And there's ways to do it. You do a very good job with this. You're always engaging. You're always talking. You have podcasts. You have free resources. You have everything that you do. And it's just amazing. And I think that when we can take that we first mentality rather than a me first mentality, we can start to create change within ourselves and with others. And it leads to opportunities that would not have been presented even had you not built the we first.
Okay, so this analogy just popped into my head. When you go to Disneyland or Disney World, the majority of the fun, I think, is actually watching the person next to me and their face get all distorted. And then they're watching me scream and my arms are flailing around. And then we get off the ride and we're like, that was so much fun because we got to experience something together. We had the emotions of going up, of going down, of feeling like we're going to fall out. And it's something that we get to experience together. And I think a lot of times we just try and do this business by ourselves, ride that Disneyland ride by ourselves. And then we get to the end of the ride and we're like, that wasn't that much fun. No, let's enjoy it together, just like we do on a Disneyland ride.
I love that analogy. Like I totally get that. And I'd even say like recently I just went on a trip to Croatia and I think about this. Yes. I was just in Croatia and it was awesome.
My Jared and Bridges are going in a week.
Well, I got some recs for you. Okay. I got some recs. But the analogy that you just used is so true. It's like when you go, and there's traveling's all different things, but when you go with people, it doesn't matter the place that you're going because the experience becomes that much greater. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you do, the things that you do with the people that you care most about always elevates your experience and it creates additional memories that wouldn't have been presented otherwise. And so I love your analogy. It just made me think of that because I went with some great guys and being with them made that experience even better, right? The people that I met, it made it better than if I were to have just done everything independently. Now, I think traveling alone is really great and we could get into that whole debate, but I think overall, when you have people that you love and you get to spend time with them, they bring the best out of you. And ultimately, don't we want to be at our best as often as we can be and have that feeling of like, this is life. I'm living. Why? Because I can, right? Like that's the name of the game and that's the name of the show. So I love it. I love it. I'm all in.
Okay, so let's keep going on. And we talked about relationships and how impactful they are. We talked about common themes of success that these entrepreneurs that you interviewed have. What are some of the things they didn't have in common? Do we dare go there?
Yeah. No, this is also great. I love this idea because part of the reason I wrote this whole book was to see what are the commonalities and what are the differences among the world's best, right? Why do we do certain things and why do others do certain things? And the thing that I realize is there's no one way to do this. There's no one way to live life. There's no one way to build a business. There's no one way to do anything. And what's even more important is nobody knows what they're doing until they've actually done it. And this is something that was like mind blowing to me because it's like, I'm interviewing some of these people like, that have just done all the things that I look to do and all the people that inspire me. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, they didn't know what they were doing, but they figured it out. And that's part of this game is you have to be willing to figure it out. It's not always going to go well, but if you're willing to figure it out, you're willing to take some good action, you're willing to learn from the people that have done what you're trying to do, you're going to be A-okay. But the differences come in related to the similarities. And here's what I mean by that. One of the questions that I really focus on is how do you pursue success relentlessly while still enjoying the journey in the process? Now, every single person has a different way of describing this. But yet one of the things that we all look for is the ability to have choice, the ability to create time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. But the way of which we approach that is very different. Some people are focused on the achievement first, fulfillment second. Some people are focused on fulfillment, achievement second. Some people are focused on the dance along the way. It doesn't matter which way you approach it, as long as that's the way that you feel good with and you feel in alignment with. And that was one of the big takeaways. And Steve Larson talked about in the book, he talks about the art of fulfillment versus the science of achievement. And what's really fascinating here is that our society is so focused on achievement first, because we think that if we hit a certain goal, we reach a certain financial status, that all of our things will be fixed, our internal and our external problems. And don't get me wrong, having a lot of money, making a lot of money, that's a wonderful thing. And we should do that. But it's a renewable resource. We can get more of it. We can get less of it. It can change, whatever. But our internal fulfillment of how we feel about ourselves and the life we're living, that's only, we get to decide that. And you don't get your time back. You never get that back. And so it's really interesting to see why, as a society, we focus so much on getting the result, even though the result's always going to lead to another one. Whereas instead of focusing on, well, what about the enjoyment and the fulfillment while we pursue that result? Because it makes life so much more fun when you can enjoy both and have that dance. And so some of the differences, there's a ton more differences. I don't want to spoil everything, but some of the differences are really in how we view the same things, but also in how we approach our method to achieving success. And I think that's really a fascinating dichotomy that I tried to really bring up to the forefront throughout the book.
So good. So good. So good. Okay. So go a little bit more into these entrepreneurs that you got to talk to. We talked about what's in common, what's not in common. What are some things that maybe surprised you that you found with successful entrepreneurs?
One of my favorite quotes from the book comes from Alison. And she was telling me an incredible story. And ultimately, the quote that resonated with is, you need to go where you're celebrated, not just where you're tolerated. And this was like, it was one of those moments where when it says you get the chills, when someone tells you something, you're like, oh, that's it. Like, that's good. And I've processed this so much because, I'm guilty of this too on this journey. Is like, you try to go to the best circles, the places that you think you really need to be at. And sometimes you're just tolerated there. But you really need to go to the places where the people celebrate you. You need to find your tribe of people that love you for who you are. You don't need everybody to like you to be rich in this game, to be happy in this game. You need the right people to love you to make it. And so when she said this, that was one of the most surprising, revelations. I don't even know if that's the right word right there. Revelations in my mind. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this was so, so, so good. So that was one thing that really surprised me. Another thing that really surprised me is this idea that we're just all people. And we put people on pedestals because we think that they are in a different world than us. But at the end of the day, every person is the same. We want to be loved. We want to be heard. We want to be complimented. We want to feel like we belong, and we want to feel that we're valued. And by interviewing all these people, it was so surprising to say, you know what? We're just like each other. Sure, we have a different path, a different business, a different family life, maybe different belief systems, but we're just people. And we can all relate on a core level. And when you make somebody feel good and you appreciate them, that feeling gets developed. That trust becomes built. The opportunity becomes endless. And so that was something that really surprised me, was realizing that people with certain amount of money, people that have done certain things, people that have sold companies, people that haven't sold companies, we're just people. It doesn't matter our age, our status, our title, our fame, our family life, our political beliefs, sexual orientation. None of that matters. What matters is that we're all people and we all want the same things. So that was really surprising to me to be able to really understand that, especially with the society of social media and follower count, and this idea that just because you have a following, it means you're automatically successful, or just because you have a following means you're automatically influencing people. That's not the case. What is the case, though, is that we're all people and we have a chance and a choice to choose how we make somebody feel. And when you can choose to try to give your best to help somebody feel like they're the most important person in the room, you're going to be able to create some incredible relationships, and you're going to be able to have so many surprises in your life that you could have never expected.
Okay, so let's dive into that. How do you make someone feel so special online? What are you doing, or what do you recommend or tell your clients to do to be able to create to create that connection?
So there's quite a few things, and I can give a script, I can give some ideas, I'll give some tips here. But the number one thing is you have to come from a place of the relationship, the human first, right? Now, everyone who's listening is probably like, oh yeah, that's what I hear all the time. Build the relationship first. Don't ask for anything right away, right? Like we all know that the pitch first goes straight to spam. You're out, you're next, see you later.
Yeah.
One of the most important things that we can do here though is spell people's name correctly. All right. This is one of those things that I can't believe I have to say it, but I do, because I bet you people will misspell your name all the time. They probably put 2 L's and you're like, really? Like, did you pay any attention to this at all? Like you want my time and energy, but you won't even take the energy to spell my name correct. People call me
delete those.
Exactly. People call me Jack or Jeff or Jason. I'm like, no, it's Jake. Like it's a simple 4-letter word, like, but it's effort, right? So one of the biggest things that we can do is get people's names correctly and make an effort to show them you care. The second thing that we can do is whenever we're reaching out to somebody is we need to focus on the commonality or how you found them. So when you look at this, a lot of times when people are trying to connect with potential customers or people that they look up to, I call these 1-2 steppers. They're 1 to 2 or more steps above you, is we try to just go straight in for something, right? We try to go in for the kill. We try to go in for the sale. We try to ask something too quickly without building that rapport and breaking into the emotional side of our mind. So how do we do this? Well, you can mention a commonality, which takes 30 seconds of energy and effort. Go to their website, go to their About Me, and literally find something that you have in common with them. Go to their Instagram, scroll through 30 photos. It's not stalking, it's research if you do it the right way. Okay. And all you got to do they have the same amount of family members? Do they have kids? Are they the same age? Do they have the same religious beliefs? Do they go to the same college? Do they live in the same part of the world as you, right? Anybody who lives near you should have an easy in to find something really cool, right? Because it's something relatable. And you mentioned that. The other way that you can really grab someone's attention and make them feel a certain way is by telling them how you found them. So one of the things that is always really exciting, I think I even told you about this, or at least I talk about this in the book of like how we met. The first time I ever heard about you was in the 30 Days book by Russell Brunson. What would happen if you had to start over? I read that book and I mentioned to you that I think I saw you in that book and I loved what you said about the parties and being an invitation to things and your offer and things like that. And that was an easy way for me to bridge the gap. Now all of a sudden you're like, whoa, he took the second to read that. Then he replied and he mentions that. So how did you find people? If you want to get in touch with either one of us after the show, hey, I heard the interview with Jake. I heard you on with Alison. It was so good. I loved when you talked about XYZ. All of a sudden, you're a friend rather than a stranger.
Yep.
Okay. Another great tip here, and I hope you don't mind that I'm just kind of going down the rabbit hole. I just get so excited, is asking a question that triggers an emotional response rather than a blanket statement. So let's break this down. Most people ask basic questions. Basic questions get no answers or basic answers. Great questions get great conversations. Here's why. If I ask you the question, what's your best piece of advice? You're going to give me the same answer you probably tell everybody, and it's going to be very, very quick, and it's not going to be thorough. But if you change this, and this is one of the questions that I turned it into in the book, is I say, what's the one thing you wish you knew when first starting your business that would have accelerated your path to success? Well, what I've done, similar question. I still want a piece of advice, but what I've done is now I'm having you go down memory lane. I'm taking you back to the very beginning. You start to think about the struggles, the excitements, the ups, the downs. And now what do we love to do? We love to talk about ourselves. So now you're going to give me the answer that's most relevant to you based on your story. Here's where the game changer is. You get to this point. Most people are like, okay, cool. I got an answer. I'm talking with the person. I'm so excited. Like, this is cool. But very few people know how to turn a one-time experience into a relationship. And here's where you do this. You give me that answer to that question. I've broken it down a little bit. We see each other as friends. We see each other as more than just a completely random person who has no idea who I am on the internet. Now it's my job as the person that started and initiated to listen and reciprocate with the next more in-depth question. The next step is in my hands. You have to take the next step, either a follow-up question, a course of action. I'll be in touch soon, but you have to leave the door open for another response. And that's how you can really start to differentiate yourself and start to play this game of just real, authentic connection. And then it just multiplies. And then one intro leads to the next. 3 months lead to a year-long friendship. That 1-year friendship leads to 3 introductions. Those 3 introductions lead to an email blast that brings in 50,000 into your new store, whatever it is. But those are some of like the most basic, but most like influential tips that I have in terms of practicality related to really establishing this online.
So good. So good. So those were 2. Do you have a third? I'm waiting.
A third.
I feel like I need a third.
You want another one? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one. I can go all day. I can go all day long on this. Here's the third big thing that I would say about this. Okay. Just because somebody has a name doesn't mean they're the person you need to talk to. Okay. You never know who you're talking to until you know who you're talking to. You may think somebody is some type of person because of the way they've perceived themselves on social. You need to figure out if that person is in alignment with who you are as a person before you should proceed to do something just because of who they are. And this is a difficult pill to swallow sometimes because we want the name, we want the credibility that is attached with certain people, but you have to make sure that there is values in alignment. The second part to this is you never know who you're talking to until you know, meaning sometimes the person you think you need to be in touch with is really the gateway to the actual person you need to be in touch with. Sometimes the person you want to get in touch with isn't the person at all, but their cousin might be the right person. But if you don't ask questions, if you don't mention commonalities, if you don't break down the emotional barrier, if you don't listen and process what someone says and validate what they say, you will never know who the right person actually is. So a big thing with online, especially in today's economy, in today's society, is we go so much based on following or perception. And that's great. A lot of us do a really great job of creating the right thing. But there are so many people that are one way on social and another way in real life, right? There's so many people that pretend to be one way or pretend to be something else. And I think that when you really get into the nitty gritty of this and you really get to know someone for who they are, and you don't feel that you're pressured to get to know someone because of who you perceive them to be, you're able to actually find a deeper connection from the get-go.
Okay, so how do you know which questions to ask? I'm more of the introvert and I'm kind of like a wallflower. Most times I sit in the back of rooms whenever I can and I just absorb and I formulate my own answers from what people are saying. How do you know what are good questions and how do you formulate better questions?
Okay. Love this, Alison. What I would say, first of all, is, and you're really self-aware with what you just said, you have to know your communication style. Too often people are trying to be like somebody else because they think that's what the other person wants. No. The way to win and get ahead is to get the most amount of people to love you for you, right? That's how you're going to build the right brand and the right audience.
Totally.
But that being said, once you know your communication style and you're not worried about pleasing others, but rather having the mentality to say, well, no, if you don't like me, that's fine. Go somewhere else. There's someone else for you. But if you do like me, I'm going to be your number one fan, right? And we're going to become great. But when it comes to asking questions, what I would say is this: find questions that you would enjoy being asked and reciprocate. The people that are going to resonate with you oftentimes are the people that are most common with you, right? What's one of the first things that people say in online business is find people that often were you before you created your thing, right? Before you went through your transformation, you were the person, right? Or before you became the person you are today, who were the people that you looked up to, right? Here's what I would do then to take it one step further is what questions would you like being asked? What questions make you feel good when you're asked? And if you're really unsure, go listen to your favorite podcasts and see what questions they're asking and just ask those. Or if you're like, well, how do I formulate a question like on the spot? Use what they've already done in their life to start the conversation. Take someone's experience, take someone's hard work of social posting and, hey, I saw this post that you made. Can you explain what this really meant? You know, I love what you do. I'd love to hear more about this. That's your in, right? Or ask a question that creates that emotional response, right? Take them on the journey. People want to talk about themselves. Let them. People love to hear the sound of their name. Dale Carnegie says it in How to Win Friends and Influence People. The sweetest sound in the human language or the dictionary or whatever it is a sound of your own name. Play into these things. It's not saying you have to come up with all these secret questions. It's just what would make you feel good? What are they already being asked? What are they already doing in their life that you could just drop a hint that you're paying attention to and ask for more? And those tips will give you more insight to what questions you can ask.
I love the simplicity of it. And why I said it's when I'm in a big group of people, they ask questions that I didn't even know to think of. And so that's why sometimes I'll sit back. But then when it does come to my turn, sometimes I'm like, oh man, you guys just answered everything that I needed to hear. And so that's why even Jared and I are like, how do we ask better questions? Like we were having that conversation the other day, but I love how you just made it so simple.
Yeah. I think we make everything too complicated. Like this should be fun, right? Like life's a game. It's so fun and just play it. When we're growing up, we don't worry about if we're winning or we're losing. Yeah, we want to win. Let's go. But you can still have fun. Now I'm going to be a champion. I'm going to tell you that right now. And everyone who listens to you is a champion, but you got to have fun playing this game. If you're not having fun playing the game, then play a different game and go have fun. You don't get your life back. You don't get a redo at the game. So you might as well play it, right? Get off the bench and start playing. Take that first step. Ask a random question. If the question sucks, guess what? You're going to ask another question. If you get rejected, who cares? Ask somebody else, right? Like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to overcomplicate it. Breathe, smile, have a little bit of fun. Give yourself grace and permission to just say, screw it. I'm going to try this. Like so many times we just don't do that. So I appreciate that you recognize the simplicity because I think that's a big lesson that we can all take from this episode.
Yes. How many times we make things complex when we really don't need to? Probably 99% of the time. Okay. So where can people find you? Where can people get this book? Tell us all the good things.
The best place to find me as of now is on Instagram at Jake Kelfer. And when you go there, the link to the book is in the bio. You can also get the book at theelevatedentrepreneur.co. And the cool thing about this book is we wanted to, we just talked about playing the game. We wanted to play the game. So we made the book free to as many people as possible. All you got to do is just cover the shipping. And if you go to theelevatedentrepreneur.co, that's what we're doing. We're getting it into as many hands as possible. So head over there, come say hi and on the DMs. Let's get a convo going. I'm all for it.
Oh, you're so gracious. Thank you so much for showing up, for giving us all those tips. Oh my gosh. I feel like I need to listen to this podcast episode 5 more times. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thanks for having me.
Into Jake's top 10 takeaways with number 1, people come first and should always be the focus of your business. Hands down, mic drop, people are business. That's what it is. Okay. Number 2, the relationships you build are everything. Number 3, you can achieve success and still enjoy the journey, friends. And I keep thinking about when you get to the end, and when we get to the end, what is the end? We just keep going and going and going, right? So let's enjoy the process, the journey that we're on, and then celebrate the heck out of each other. Number 4. All right. We see a lot of automation in this world. And sometimes we forget that our customers can actually be a human being. And I say that with kind of a little snarky attitude, but have you seen on social media? Have you seen when people leave reviews? It almost is like they leave humanity at the door. Yeah, that can happen. Don't forget, as business owners, that we get to go and we get to serve our customers. Are the customers always right? No, I don't believe they are. A long time ago, that used to be the thing, but I don't think they're always right. I always recommend, though, treating them like a human and telling them thank you for if you make a mistake, or if they made the mistake and you totally didn't, but going in with a grateful heart and say, thank you so much for helping me to know how to clarify this. Or thank you so much for helping me to be a stronger business, a better business. Go in remembering first that you're dealing with a human being who needs love and who wants to be accepted, and all those good fuzzy feelings. We have to remember that our businesses are run from other human beings and not robots. Number 5, don't forget to fill your cup. As a business owner, we can get drained really quick. Number 6, be intentional in what you are doing. Number 7, if you feel alone, you're doing it wrong. Number 8, be willing to figure it out. Don't just give up. There's ways. There's ways. Number 9, go where you're celebrated and not just tolerated. Number 10, we make everything a lot more complicated than we need to. Take a deep breath, walk away for a moment if you need to, and then come back and say, how can I make this more simple? All right. I hope you loved that podcast episode and learned how Jake was able to get into my DMs and then writing a chapter in his book and how that whole process worked so that you can take this information, slide into your influencers' DMs and start building a relationship where it becomes this win-win situation and you can both grow each other's businesses. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Talk to you next week. Bye.